What is going on, good people? I am Rodney Burris, one of the nation's top trainers on emotional intelligence. And this series is going to be a quick, power packed informational about emotional intelligence, what it is, what does it look like in real everyday life, how do we gain from it, how do we improve it, right? A lot of what we're going to be talking about can be found in this book right here. It's called, I think it gets a little bit blurred out. It's called The Five Fast Features for Fixing Firms. The Five Fast Features for Fixing Firms is an emotional intelligence book around how relationships look in the workplace, right? But here's the deal. You know what's at the workplace? People. People are at the workplace. So anything that works for those people while they're on the job also could work for you and I, right? Also can work in everyday situations. As a matter of fact, there's lessons that we can gain from how we interact with our kids that can help us in adult relationships, how we relate to our adult parents, right? Older grandparents, how we relate to cousins and besties and friends, how we relate to people at Wendy's, right? Because in each of these situations, the common denominator is ourselves. We bring us into these situations, right? So true story. I was sitting in. I taught college for about 10 years, right? I taught on a campus here in Maryland called Essex College. I taught on Morgan State University's campus. I taught on the campus of Towson State University, and all of my classes were around public speaking, communication. Um, my class was very flexible, right? And what I meant by that is I was able to take what I was doing in the real world and apply it to the lesson plan. Because for each of those colleges that I taught for, they really were primarily concerned that things went smoothly. And so we had a textbook, we had a standard syllabus that everybody could use, but at the end of the day, they just wanted to make sure, are people learning, right? If we do a quality assurance check, are the students getting communication principles that's going to help propel them into life? That's the first thing. And then, second, and kind of most importantly, no problems, no issues, no major hiccups, right? After very early on, a semester or two, I got it. I knew the formula, I understood the system, and I was able to take what I was doing. See, I was traveling the country doing public speaking. I had been certified by that point in a few different workshops, in a few different modules, and about three or four different relationship slash communication curricula. And so because of that, I was I saw where the textbook was going, right? But instead of just going chapter one, read the text, answer the questions, chapter two, that's boring, right? That's why students check out of an educational experience. We made it alive. We took everything that was a communication principle and we connected it to three things: work life, how to get a job, how to move up in job. Because at the end of the day, the reason why you're in college is not to get good grades. The reason why you, and I did this from the beginning, why are you here? And I went around and I would go, why are you here? Why are you here? And everybody would say, oh, I'm here to be this major. Oh, I'm here because, my parents said I couldn't sleep in the basement no more. Oh, I'm here just to get a kind of degree. I always wanted to go back to school. This is from some of my non-traditional learners, right? Some of my learners who had experienced life already. Why are you here? I just always wanted to go back to school. Okay, school is a tool, however, right? And like any type of tool, it's only as good as its utility. And so one of the things that I would do in those spaces, I would ask them, what's the best tool? A hammer, a fork, a laptop. Right off the bat, as you can see, that question kind of just threw some people for a loop. Like, what do you mean? Like a hammer, a fork, a laptop? Yeah. What? Why are you here? Excuse me. What is the best tool? A hammer, a fork, or the laptop? So while they're over here kind of configuring and thinking and saying, well, maybe I would say to eat noodles. It's a game changer. It's a game changer because as we can see, eating noodles, you can't do nothing with those noodles with a hammer. and you're going to destroy the laptop trying to eat some noodles with it. So a tool is only as good as what I intend to use it for. Tools do me no good just sitting in my tool belt. That's what degrees are. That's what going to school is like. Just getting another class, another certification, another license. It's expensive. It costs money. You got to do homework. You got to follow up. It's only valuable if I plan to utilize that tool for the purposes that the tool was designed for. So as I was going around my college, excuse me, excuse me, my college classes every semester, I was asking the same question: why are you here? And I was able to help them see themselves beyond midterms, right? Beyond finals, beyond getting the degree, beyond walking across the stage. What are we going to use that tool for? Really understanding what I'm going to use that tool for is tied into how I understand myself. And I am unable to understand myself if I am not in touch with my emotions. Now, see, here's the deal with emotions. Emotions kind of got a bad rap for some years, decades even, right? You got to think without feeling, right? Don't let your emotions cloud your judgment. Well, that is like saying um, it, the judgment, the logic is like a structure, right? It's hard, it's firm. You can measure it, it's dependable. It's like a pot, right? What's in the pot is the liquid, the water, right? Whatever we tend to use, the broth, the soup. Well, for so long, we've encouraged each other to operate as if we're only pots. We're only bringing the pot to the table. And we make our decision based on the size, weight, density of the pot, of the structure, of the information. But the size, the weight, the density of the structure of that information only has relevance based on how we intend to serve and or partake what's in the pot. They go hand in hand. So this is not get rid of traditional lines of thinking, logic, rationale. That's not smart, right? Instead, this is how do we incorporate our understanding of self along with the information that we have access to create better outcomes in our work, in our jobs, at play, with our family, with our kids, with our boo things, with our besties, with our spouses, right? Understanding how those things come together is what we call emotional intelligence, right? It is the feelings and the thinking that go hand in hand that create for us the experience of being aware of how to navigate, aware of how to apply. So, as you're listening, there are 4 components of emotional intelligence, right? Those 4 components are: 1, understanding my own feelings. Just simply understanding how I feel. Number 2, based on how I understand my own feelings, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do with that? Right? Number 3, being able to put myself in the shoes of others. If I were them, how would I be feeling? How would I partake that? Because a lot of times, how we communicate axioms and strengths to each other is, you know what you should do? You know what you should do? You know what you should, what you really ought to do. I was watching a colleague of mine on stage recently. She was doing a workshop and she was speaking in these ideals that for me, it felt so alienating. Contrary to popular belief, we don't turn left, we gotta go right when we're faced with, what does that mean? What does that mean when we're faced with tough decisions? We don't go left, we gotta go right. That that's so idyllic. It's so ethereal that it's hard for us to touch it. It's hard for us to get it. Right? One of my favorite quotes from Einstein. Einstein says, if you cannot explain it simply, you do not actually understand it yourself. I love that, right? Because Einstein is the face of what we call genius. Whenever somebody that hair, y'all, we all know what Einstein, his little voice and how he sounds. That Einstein embodies for us what it means to be a genius. And this genius who came up with the theory of relativity, right? The theory of relativity, how everything in the universe relates to everything else, gave that theory with 3 letters and 1 number. E equals mc squared. E equals mc squared. The universe. How it all relates. How simple is that? Now, I don't sit here to be able to profess like I know what E equals mc squared actually means. I don't yet. That's probably a whole other course of study. But I am aware of the formula. We've seen it in cartoons. We've seen it in the back of cereal boxes. It's like the epitome of being in a smart place, if that's on the wall, right? E equals mc squared. Oh, those people are thinkers. And the thinker put it in terms that's embodied by 3 letters, 1 number. Because for him, genius isn't being so smart that nobody can reach us or talking in such high, lofty ideals that I got to do a lot of work to get to there to come up hither. No, we make it simple, we make it little, we make it basic. Because if we can explain it simply, right, to inverse his quote, then we probably really understand it. And so the whole idea about being able to put myself in another person's shoes is being able to understand if I were them, what would I then do? Right? How do I feel? But it's these build, right? How do I feel? What am I going to do about it? How do they feel? And then based on my understanding of them and their situation, what am I going to help us achieve, accomplish? See, embedded in emotional intelligence, those are the 4 components. Embedded in emotional intelligence is a sense of leadership, right? I'm not just trying to improve and get me better for me. I'm also trying to improve and get things better for us. Kids, my colleagues, my coworkers, spouse, my boss, my pet, my dogs, my cousins, my grandma. The easiest thing to do, slam the door, walk out, block the numbers, not deal with it. I just don't have time. I just don't have time. It's more difficult to use our words. What does that mean? Use our words. You know, when we were little, see little kids, they just, grocery store, you see a little kid, like, use your words. What do you mean? Well, yeah, it's funny to see the little kid. Or for some people, if you was anything like my mama, if my mom when I would see that when I was young, I probably was getting in trouble. No. Not if I was doing it. Not if I was doing it. If my mother saw some other little kid in the grocery store acting cray, you know what cray is. More than likely, I'm finna get in trouble. Because I better not ever, and if she ever even see me think about, and it's like, mom. When I was getting, by the time I got old, I was like, mama, this ain't our story though. This not our truth. This didn't happen to us. We don't even got to check those boxes. I'm just saying. I hear you. We can leave it just there because that's not our reality, right? But why do we have to tell the little corners of the world in the store to use our words? What does that mean? In real life, right? You take your hands. If you do this with your hands, your 2 hands like this is about the size actually of your brain. Everybody's brain, right? Me, you, Shaquille O'Neal, his brain is about the size of his 2 hands coming together like this too. Oddly enough, your heart is about the size of this right here, more or less, right? You want to do a couple more before we get into what I was about to tell you about with the emotions? Between here and here on your arm, right under your hand at the start of your wrist, to the beginning of your elbow, that's the size of your foot. And every time I do this with folks, people look at that, we do this, and they're like, my foot is not that big. Take your shoe off. Wait till you get home. Wait till you get some. Take your shoe off and just do the whole slap your foot right there and watch the tip of your toes go to the beginning of the, because the human body has a synchronicity to it. It has a symmetry to it, kind of embedded throughout its design, right? There's some Fibonacci numbers. We ain't gonna get into that right now, but there's a lot of symmetrical geometry that's embedded in this curvilinear structure that we call the human body. It seems like it's just round here, pudgy there, curvy there, but instead it's a lot of like intentional design built all the way through, right? Okay, go back to the brain. 2 hands, right? So this is the size of your brain. If this was representative of your spinal cord, right, where your wrist starts, coming up into your brain, in the middle here, you have your limbic system. Your limbic system, right around where another portion of our brain called the amygdala, that's where the seat of our emotions are. So when we have feelings, scared, excitement, anger, passion, those portions of our brain lighten up, right? A lot of activity happening right there. You know what's not in that area? Right here in the middle, right there? Thinking, being rational, arithmetic, logic, language, right? So the area that has all of these feelings and all of this taste, touch, smell, right? And your fight or flight, freeze, faint response, right? So we always say fight or flight, but it's actually 2 more. It's freeze and faint. I just can't take it. Right? All of that, fight, flight, freeze, faint, all of that is right there. Those are just reactionary responses, right? That's controlled by that middle internal portion. Some folks call it the reptilian brain, right? Is one of the earlier portions of the brain to form. Outside of that is what we call the cerebral cortex. The cerebral cortex is where some of our higher functions are. Our ability to do sign language, our ability to see a couple of squiggly lines and call it a word that has meaning in a visual that we can't actually see. That's called reading, right? Those portions of our brain in the cerebral cortex on the outer portion and then in the frontal cortex as well, those are where your higher level thinking processes happen. Okay. What does that mean? One part of the brain got all the feelings and the responses. Another part of the brain got all of the thinking and the words. They're not connected. They're not connected. Just like if you touch a cold piece of ice with your left hand, your right hand doesn't get cold. They're not connected like that. They're connected within the body, sure, right? But your left hand can feel something cool while your right hand touches something hot. You can have both of those sensations at the same time. And so it takes work to teach us as humans, how to take when I'm feeling scared, happy, oh my gosh, amazed, oh wow, angry, afraid, how to take those emotional responses and put words to them. We have to train ourselves to do that because it's not naturally wired that way. That's a higher level being that has taken the time to be like, you know what, in this moment, not like Mr. Spock, right? Mr. Spock, for those of you who don't know, Star Trek, old space voyage TV show, he was an alien. He comes from a culture that was so logical and rational. It was almost as if they were devoid of emotion. Nobody likes that, right? There's one of my other favorite. I have many quotes, right? I do a lot of reading. I like to be a student of this game of life, right? I believe in this concept called becoming different and better every day. I think that I can become a little bit better, slightly different than how I was yesterday. Definitely last week, definitely last month, definitely last year. I'm not that same cat. I want so that in a few years' time, it's like my DNA is different, but still true to self. We'll get into that as we go in the series. Mr. Spock came from a species of people that were so rational, they were so logical that they came across as if they did not care about the human condition. They almost didn't seem like they cared about each other. And the problem that we have as humans, right? The humanity within us has this unspoken rule, this unspoken axiom of truth that goes like this: people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And once we know how much people care, then we can tap in to what they know, like listening to them, like lending our ear, like, okay, because you're not going to just leave me. You're not just going to say stuff that I'm not going to be able to touch, grasp, get. You're with me, right? And so the higher being is not the individual that functions with this rigidity logic model only. The best of us are inclusive of the whole of the person in our processing. One of the colleges that I taught at, one of my colleagues had on their wall a whole bunch of like cartoon strips and quotes and stuff. So it made for real interesting reading, right? So every so often I would stop in the hallway and just read some of the stuff that was on his door. One of them was a quote. It was from some country in Asia. I want to say Chinese, but that may not be accurate. So I'm just going to say it was an Asian quote, and it said, "If your passion, desire, and charity to help others is not inclusive of yourself, then your love is incomplete." I used to read that one a few times throughout the month, right? I didn't read it every day. I don't even know if I read it every week, but I definitely glanced over there a lot. Sometimes I would just stop and kind of take that one in. That one hit me hard because I was taught that being altruistic is the highest form of giving. I was taught that when you go to somebody's house and they offer for you to have something to eat or drink, you, no, 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 it's okay, I'm good. Hey, you need some help doing that? Oh no, buddy, I got it. I need some help. And the crazy thing about it is that when we reject other people's charity, we actually are sending a broader message that we don't want. Don't want what? Yes, everything, anything. Don't want help. I don't want consideration. I don't want money. Oh, no, 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 that's fine. I got it. Now let me treat you as on me. No, no, you better not leave your money in your pocket. We turning down blessings. We turning down opportunities. We turning down good faith. And so we communicate outwardly. We give off these vibes and signals that, hey, don't send that good stuff my way. I'm just going to reject it. I'm not going to do anything with it. Why? Why is that our positioning? So, kind of in keeping with that, years later, I was in a trainer series, and we're going to get back to the 4 components of emotional intelligence. I got one more to give before we wrap up for today. I was in a trainer, and I saw one of the people that was facilitating the workshop do this right here. He said, "Okay, I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds, and in 30 seconds, I want you to make a mental list of everybody in your circle, old, young, mom, grandma. If it's true for you, for your mother, your grandma, this may not be true for everybody, for maybe one or both of their parents, or some or all of their grandparents. But whoever it is, whatever the relationship type, whether it's romantic or familiar or professional or collegial or whatever it is, real quick, and I'm gonna give you a quick short time on this. Make a mental list of everybody in your circle that you love. Go." right? And he played the Jeopardy music. If I could sing out do 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 do, played the Jeopardy music, and he cut it off. All right, how many people had two people? One person, 5 people, 6 people, 8 people. He just kept going. He kept going. He kept going. He kept going until it trickled down to somebody who had like 20 something people, right? So put your hands down. Keep your hands up if you got 12. Keep your hands up if you got 15. And more you see people around the room, hands going down. So it's only like 1 or 2 people. I'm like, how many you have? I got 26. How many you have? I got 37. Good gracious, 37 people. That sounds crazy. That's fine. It's a lot of love. Now, put your hands back up if on your list you wrote down yourself. And we would look around the room, and out of the whole place, all of these people, it'd be 3-4 measly hands up. At first, everybody was just probably, I got 10 people, I got 7 people, I got a good list. Out of all of them folks, 1 or 2, 3 or 4 people were able to say, when I think about the people that gets my love, are able to receive my love on a regular basis, that I make an intentional effort to show love to, I come to mind because I have a practice of being inclusive. My charity for others is not just altruistic and bleeding out, but my charity for us creates wellness. Third favorite quote for this session today. When we change, I want you to visualize this word in your mind, right? The word illness. Okay? ILLNESS. Yes. One of my favorite quotes says, when we change I to we, even the word illness becomes wellness. Do you see that? It takes this inclusive approach. I'm not just doing what's good for you. I also don't want to just selfishly do what's good for me. But how can I approach things so that we win? So that we win. Do you know if that was embedded in us, if that was an intrinsic part of our makeup, of our mentation, right? Big old word, unnecessary word. It just means thought process, how we think, mentation. If the whole idea of change, of going from I to we, from illness to wellness because of the inclusive nature of our approach, was embedded within our DNA, in our hearts, in our mind, and then out in the open in front of us, city council meetings would change. Congressional hearings would change. UN meetings and conferences would change. Skirmishes here, battles there, wars here or there. These things would change. Healthcare would change. Hospice would change. Retirement homes, elderly care would change. Daycare centers would change. Our approach to teaching and learning in the school system would change. Pollution, trash, recycling would change. I'm not saying that there would be no recycling. I'm saying our approach to understanding each of those concepts, if everybody had this kind of like in us, just there's certain things that's embedded within the human. I kind of talked about this a little bit ago. Any culture you go to, because we understand the human condition, there's always bathrooms. Oh man, of course, that's kind of lowbrow thinking. But understand the concept. Because it's so intrinsic to being a human, it's everywhere. One of the phrases that you learn when you go to another country is, where is the bathroom? Can you show me where the bathroom is? Another thing that everybody has in common is the need, the necessity to sleep. So no matter where you go in this world, we're going to be able to find somewhere to rest, And most of the time, all the time, it's at nighttime. Yeah, some places that you can go to and sleep during the day, sure. But humans, we sleep at night, so much so that things that are active at nighttime, we got a special word for that. We call that nocturnal. That animal is nocturnal. Oh, it's up on, can see in the dark. Because to us, the human condition says sleep at night, use the bathroom, get some food, etc. There's no culture that smiles that doesn't mean happiness. Now, I'm not talking about individuals that's a little bit crazy, right? That when they smile, they really are intending harm. Listen, I'm not talking about Jack Nicholas, the Joker, and those sort of things. But in normal day to day living, no matter what side of the hemisphere, what part of the world we go to, smiles mean it's okay. Showing hands means I'm no threat. I'm here. I'm a part of us. Raised eyebrows mean information sharing and a little bit of a surprise, right? Frowns look the same in every other culture. We don't see somebody frowning from Australia like, are they giddy right now? There's certain things that are intrinsic to the human condition. If the idea of this concept of moving from I to we, illness to wellness, was embedded within the human condition, everything would change. Trash day would change. Movie rental streaming would change. Everything would change. I hope that we still would keep some things like competitive sports. Particularly, it's going to sound crazy. I'm talking about emotional intelligence. I love UFC, boxing, MMA, all of that kind of stuff. So hopefully, as we become higher beings, we still got room for Jello, right? We still have an ability to do some of the things that some of us enjoy. I know some people can't take it. They don't like it. It's too much. To me, it's a phenomenal use of strategy, skill, heart, courage, determination, training, background preparation. I love it. It's great. So I'm not saying that we're trying to move into this idyllic world of no offense and nothing ever happens. I'm saying our approach to making it better for us all will be completely different with that ingredient in the middle, right? So, four components of emotional intelligence: understanding my own feelings, my behavior because of that understanding, putting myself in the other shoes of others, putting myself in the shoes of others through their feelings, through their lens. It's called empathy, right? And then last but not least, based on that, what am I helping us to do? That behavior. So one is personal action, the other one is group or broad action, interpersonal action, right? Those four components make up what we call emotional intelligence. And it's because of emotional intelligence we are able to bridge gaps cross culturally. It's why two families can come together and break bread even if they don't speak the same language. It's why some songs speak to the soul even when some of those songs are in a different language. There was a song that was here in America that went crazy for a while, Wampum Gundam Style. Oh, what does Wampum Gundam Style mean? What does it mean? We don't know. We all know the dance. We all know the dance. And so when some of our superstars have big hits, that they don't necessarily know those words unless they take the time to transliterate the meaning. But it speaks because it's something about us that resonates. And so a major part of my own work, the reason why I'm on this show, doing this podcast, sharing out these ideals in this book, The Five Fast Features for Fixed Firms, right? That last firm, that last F could be friends, that last F could be family, right? Because it's the same approach, it's the same stuff. It reminded me when I worked at Taco Bell, right? Shout out to Taco Bell. So I worked at Taco Bell as a teenager. It was maybe like one of my first or second jobs ever in my life, about 16, 17 years old. And I remember they're rolling out with the chalupa and the gordita and the burrito and all that kind of stuff. The taco salad and the taco supreme and the 7 layer this and in a double crunch taco, hard, soft taco, whatever. And growing up, looking at the commercials, that was great. It was like, man, look at that thing, look at that thing. And then I remember working there and realizing we doing this with the same ingredients. The difference between all of that stuff maybe is the shell, maybe hard, soft. A soft taco shell is literally the same substance as a burrito wrap. It's the same thing. One is a smaller circle, one is a bigger circle. Same stuff. You load up a taco put a whole bunch of stuff in there. You take that same stuff out, put it in a burrito wrap, add a little bit more because there's more surface area. Now you got a burrito. It's the same stuff, right? But it sells. It's great for fourth meal. Run for the border. Yo quiero Taco Bell, right? Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. That little dog. But the stuff is all the same. The stuff in this book is all the same. The 5 fast features for fixing relationships, family, friends, firms, businesses, companies. Because it's how we understand how ourselves and in our relation to others. A lot of times, the relationships themselves aren't bad. Relationships at work, relationships at home. A lot of times, it is the personal journey and how it aligns with somebody else's personal journey. That lens is a very different determination than saying something is good or bad, right or wrong. If you are a bad person, it doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter what you do. You're coming from a bad place. I don't want nothing to do with you. You're coming from a bad place. This will never work, right? If we're cooking with ingredients that are spoiled, rotten, decayed, it doesn't matter how much we season them. It doesn't matter how long the cook time is, the prep time is, how much is made with love. The ingredients are bad. And a lot of us view relationships on the job, perhaps, at home, with our boo thing, over the phone, online, people that we don't know but do know, people that we love to hate, that we hate to love, but that we actually never really met them. We get into it with them, or we have these great love affairs with them, and love can be romantic, or love could just be over the same topic that brought us into this room or space or channel or page, right? Whatever that love is. We have these relationships with people, and it's easy for us as humanity to view how they're coming across as being bad or good, coming from a good core or a bad core, as opposed to a different. And sometimes different doesn't mean wrong. And for so many of us, that's tough, right? I know I still struggle with that. There's a difference between what you are doing being wrong versus what you're doing just being really, really different than how I would do it. Emotional intelligence says, if I were them, what? If I were you with your background, with how your parents treated you, with where they let you grow up and get reared, where they sent you to school, how they were home after school or not for you, how you were fed with physical food. If I had those same experience, if my grandmother or the people in my neighborhood or community or church or whatever it was talked to me, treated me the way you were treated, the way you were talked to, would I approach life very similar? Because the truth of the matter is that all of us are, for the most part, rational and right thinking. What about crazy people? What about, think about the axiom, that the framework I just put out there. If you, because one of the things I learned as a psych major at Johns Hopkins University, where I earned my bachelor's, is that what we often term as, right, for lack of a better word in this space, what we term as crazy literally is an intentional and self-preserving mechanism to deal with life. Which one of us are not approaching life in a way that's most self-preserving, that's most adaptive to our conditions? Whether we're shy, whether we're loud, whether we laugh a lot at everything, whether we never say no because we don't want to make anybody mad, whether we always say no because we don't know who we can trust. All of those are approaches to self-preservation, each one of them. And so what the goal is to get to the point where what your approach is, one, how does it make me feel being around your approach? What's the me that I experience connected to your approach? One of my colleagues says that we don't like or dislike anybody. We don't love or hate anybody. He says, what we really mean is, I like the me that I experience when I'm around them. When we say I like that person, what we're saying is the me that I experience when I'm around them, I like that. I like that experience of self. What we're also saying is, I hate the me that I experience when I'm around them. That's such a different approach, a reframing of relationship. The me that I experience when I'm around them, I hate that me that I experience. So now, guess what? The agency is back in my control to affect the change. What type of me then do I want to experience? What does that look like? What changes do I have to make? Well, for starters, I could, and then maybe I could, and I could also just not. And now, whether they change their trajectory or not, I have done things starting with me. You got to treat me better. You have to listen to me. That's beginning the process of improvement. But as we grow and gain in stages and phases, skills, understanding, and awareness, improvement is inclusive of the me that I am, and the me that I do, using me as a verb. How do I do the me that I am in a way that gives me the best outcomes? And then understanding my position in relation to others, how do I do me in a way that's as helpful as possible to my betterment while causing the least amount of offense? That's a tricky place to be, because there's a difference between being intentionally offensive, right, and a person being offended. Those are not necessarily the same things. You could offend me by walking across the street. You could offend me by your song that you got playing in your car that I hear, and you're over there crying because that's the song you and your granddad, that's the last time y'all had a bag of chips, that song was in the background. And you happen to hear it. Now you got it turned up full blast. Can't even finish the chips that you're trying to eat because your soul is weeping about granddad. You're in a place of love, and I'm offended by your song. You didn't offend me. It's a difference. It's a difference. It's not necessarily the same thing. Emotional intelligence, gaining in our what they call emotional EQ or emotional IQ, is the person who begins to even make allowances for that type of thinking, even begins to make allowances for the fact that just because I'm offended by something that you naturally did within yourself, it does not mean you were intentionally offensive to me. Now, just think if we did that with spouses. Just think if we did that with people that get on our nerves at work. We did that with boo things. We did that with people on the internet, chat rooms, the box, the messages, in our comments. Now, if they're trying to be intentionally offensive, cool, that's one thing. But if they're just living and expressing their truth, my offense often is reflective of what? Myself. Cat Williams, the American philosopher and humanitarian. Cat Williams, the comedian. Cat Williams said he used a lot more colorful language than I'm going to use in retelling his little story real quick. But he was talking about the idea of self-esteem. And he says that one of the things that he gets so tired of, he's using a bunch of exaggerations. I get so tired of these women. He didn't use the word women, but we're just retelling the story, right? We just retelling the story. He said, I get so tired of these women talking about, you messed up my self-esteem. He was like, lady, it's called self-esteem. He said, how do I mess up some stuff that you're supposed to feel about your own self? Wait a second. You made me not like my food. That's why I'm starving. Wait, what? No, because you said all of this stuff about the food, and now it made me not like to eat. That don't make no sense, right? That don't make no sense. That you made me not want to eat my food because you said you don't. That whole thing is what self-esteem is all about. Self-esteem is very much. Now, can people hurt our feelings? Yes. Are we above the law? Are we above the sticks and stones don't break our bones? That's not true. That whole words will definitely hurt. That's some of that rational operate with the pot only stuff. Throw that out. Bring to the table containers that are inclusive of the human, of the whole of the person, our good and our bad, our up and our down, because the truth of the matter, even these lights that you see behind me right now, there's nothing here that does not operate because of a positive and a negative coexisting. If we didn't have the wires in this light that ran a current out one way and brought it back the other way, there would be no illumination. This is true for life. There's too much sugar in the system can create something called diabetes, medically speaking, in the human body. Such is true for life. Too much sugar can be too sweet. Sometimes you got to balance that thing out. There is a such thing as good cholesterol right now in each one of us. Good fats and oils. We got to have it or else we'll be out of balance. We would have systems shut down, organ failure. But we promote no fats, no cholesterol, no oils. That's not realistic. There's salt right now in our body right now. No salt. That's not true though. Medically, everybody in the medical profession knows this, right? But what's promoted to the masses are these ideals of function in silos. Emotional intelligence incorporates the whole. Emotional intelligence is about making allowances for all of the components. How I feel, what I didn't do about it. That's the thought. How do you feel? That's empathy. That's my understanding of your feelings. And based on my understanding of your feelings, how do I help us move in a way that brings holistic health, progress, healing? These are the 4 components of emotional intelligence. Our series will go through what emotional intelligence is. We'll meet every week, 1 o'clock. So thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Rodney C. Burris, one of the nation's top trainers on emotional intelligence. You can find me everywhere on Google, Rodney C. Burris. Just type it in and a whole bunch of stuff will come up. You like TikTok, I'm on there. LinkedIn, sure. Facebook, yeah. Twitter, sure. Absolutely. Instagram, yep. All of those things. My website is rodneycburris.com. I would love to stay connected around these ideals because I believe it's good for us. And with that being said, see y'all soon.